This will be the start to my new podcast. I'm gonna call it Fried Eggs. When I originally came up with the name, I used to do a whole lot of, you know what I mean. But I am as of May 2023, freshly graduated in applied sciences with a concentration in culinary arts. So, welcome to my podcast. So, we're going to figure everything out. I plan to use this podcast as a online diary. I would like to talk to everyone when it comes to plants. I love plants. A little bit about me. Um, I love to cook everything food. I'm gonna talk to you about it. And it's just how it goes. Um, but it's gonna be healthy. It's gonna be ways to find different meals in a healthier setting. We're gonna talk about relationships. We're gonna talk about platonic relationships, um, intimate relationships, monogamous. The other ones, I'm willing to figure everything out. It's great to meet everyone, and I hope you enjoy listening. Welcome to Fried Eggs. Awesome. So, we're going to get started with talking about my food business that I am trying to come up with. I have this concept, it's called the 5 9. I'm gonna leave it on the podcast, keep it on the DL. Y'all can use the information wherever you want, but once this creative idea comes to life, it'll be a food bus. I'm thinking double decker food on top where you can come and sit fine dining. Downstairs will run just like a regular food truck. And then I'll have all the space on natural ground to work off of so I can expand my business that way. Um, I decided to call it the 5 9 because, like I said, I'm keeping this on the podcast. You have to listen to the podcast to know the nitty gritty. Cloud is 5 letters and the number 9. You put those together, you got Cloud 9. Like I said, this podcast called Fried Eggs used to be Fried Eggs because fried were the questions and the questions were the eggs. If that makes any sense, I'm I never said I was funny, but I think I'm funny. I have this new podcast set up over here, so anytime I think something's funny, I think I'm gonna hit the. I think I'm funny, so I'm gonna laugh at myself. I'm currently recording out of my bedroom. I This is my wall of art. There's some things I also like to do, which is play around with paints. Acrylic paints is the medium that I find most comfortable. I would love to try pottery. I have a friend of mine. Who's pretty great to me as far as I know. We are looking at going to make pottery together. They have classes around here. I'm located outside of Toledo. In Maumee, Ohio, there's a place. Um, I'm not getting sponsored, so I can't say the names. Not that I even remember what the name is called of this place, but they offer classes where you can do pottery and make whatever off the wheel, and then you'll be able to take your creations home. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's really nice that I'm finally finding, my crowd of people where I can create art in different mediums that doesn't just limit myself to paint on the canvas or food on the plate. Uh, Yeah, I'm really excited. I don't have too much to talk about currently. I'm just figuring out the setup. Eventually I'm going to Phew. Okay. Excuse me. I'm gonna figure out how to get this set up in my dining room. I may even change it around to my living room. Uh, we'll see. I'm really excited to see where this is gonna go. I'm kind of it's kind of lit. I don't know. I've never recorded anything off my laptop. The setup is crazy right now. I have a huge ring light actually, but since I don't have one that's small on a tripod, I have it just kind of laid out across my desk and onto my bed. I've got this really cool. Um, it came in a package podcast setup of this microphone, the board, and my real jankety laptop setup. but hey, humble beginnings at this point. I am really excited to see where things gonna go. I am nervous. I am finally reaching the end of my journey in school. I have been in college since the summer of 2017. I started at University of Toledo in the summer program. It was called MESP, and that's short for Multicultural Emerging Scholars Program. When I joined that program, I had a little, how would you say, culture shock. And it's weird to say culture shock because, again, it's multicultural. Um, but being a military brat, I grew up um, moving around, not too much. I moved around from born and raised Mississippi to Louisiana to up in Dayton, Ohio. Then when it came to moving to Toledo, the schools I went to were all predominantly white schools. There were definitely, people in other races and other cultures that attended the schools I went to, but it made it difficult to kind of adjust to people that look just like me when I moved to Toledo. I did have some problems on campus. I'm not going to get into it right now. We'll save that for another day. But basically, being in that program was so difficult for me, and it was hard. I was just a fresh 18. Um, Moving on to campus. I'd never lived outside of my mom's house. I never lived with anybody other than my mom, my brother, my stepdad. So that was kind of crazy for me to have to figure out how to adjust to, oh baby, you grown. You ain't grown, but you grown enough that you're gonna have to make your own decisions and you'll be held accountable for the things that you do. And it was just crazy. I have never been the person who was super outgoing. So my personality is very outgoing and I identify myself to be very generous, very um genuine, but when it came to being on campus, it was such a huge campus and it was just something I thought I was ready for. I thought I was ready for meeting all these new people and going to get in these new clubs and crowds and such, and it just was not that for me. And the roommate that I ended up being placed with, it made it a little difficult at the time. I don't think she was ready to be apart from her family. Not to speak on nobody name or nothing like that. I just don't think she was ready to be apart from her family and from her significant other. So it made it really hard for us to connect as roommates. Um, it was just a lot of emotions going on. So I did my best to try and stay out of my room, which was what I initially wanted to do, was try and stay out my room and get out of my comfort zone, meeting different people, new people. Um, and then it just got to the point where there were things and certain events that would happen in the room that I just was not okay with. And at that time, I wasn't comfortable in myself to be able to communicate, hey, I don't like this, this is not okay. And I wish I was. Now thinking back on it, there were many ways I could have gone about it, but now I know now. There's nothing I could do about it. So I ended up moving down the hall into another room, a quad room with four beds, and it was just the two of us. And this was a foreign exchange student. I loved this girl to pieces. I don't even know, like, it was the sister I never had, and it was to the point where I asked this girl, "Hey, will you be the godmother to my kids?" I don't even have kids. I have no intentions of having kids anytime soon. I'm not even sure what happened there, but thought this was a great friendship too, and it just did not end up working out for me either, and I ended up having to move out. They actually kicked me out of this building. Something so why I don't even know. I get myself in the craziest situations, and as I talk about my life and my experiences further down the line on this podcast, you will certainly just be like, "Dang, boo, your life is wild." I don't know. I guess I could say being such a genuine person can sometimes get you in a whole lot of trouble, but you live and you learn. This is a great way for me to share this in a positive way, which will keep me out of trouble. I'm hoping. Um, But yes, I moved out of the first building into another building where I was placed in my own separate room, but I had suite mates. So there were 4 rooms, and then I had a double room to myself, and there were some other girls in there, and those girls were just absolutely amazing. I There were 2 of them that I love to pieces. We don't speak like we used to. This is going back to 2018 at this point. We don't speak as much as we used to. However, I love these 2 girls. I cooked for them one evening. I think it was like a Sunday evening. I just texted both of them and said, "I just want to thank you for being so genuine and so nice to me." And they'd come and help me move my belongings from my second room over to this other building. And I just felt like I needed to do something for them, so I told them I was gonna make them dinner, and so I made them Tuscan butter salmon, and some lemon cheesecake croissants, um, and one of them, her favorite meal or sauce, was pesto sauce, so I made, like, a pesto pasta to go with it, and when it came time for dinner, we had a little kitchenette down the hall, that anybody it was like a communal kitchenette. When I brought them to dinner and they came up and met me and they just ate, and it just was so humbling because I've never really had people to eat my cooking and just eat it just 'cause without me feeling so tense. This was something like I chose to do and that they were willing to eat. When I first started cooking, I don't know, I tried to get my mom to eat my food and she was not feeling it. So it's okay. I mean, when you young and you just start trying to take over the kitchen, I could understand be like, do you know what you're doing? But they ate the food and they were just, "Mm, girl, this is so good. Like, why don't you just become a chef? Like, you said that you love cooking and that's something you've always wanted to do." And that hit me with a, hold on a second. Why won't I become a chef? Why wouldn't I do what I'm passionate about that is not anything like a job, but more like a way to release stress for me? And I originally started school with a major in biology, and it was supposed to be a concentration in pre-dentistry. However, things didn't work out. My my advisor ended up telling me after my second year that she never signed me up for pre-dentistry, so that was a waste of time. Um, I ended up switching my major from biology. I couldn't take the biology classes; they were so boring. Like, and then I had biology, lovely guy, lovely instructor, 200 plus lecture hall, and then class wouldn't be over until 7:35. And at the time, I was working at UPS, working thirds. So nap time is really 7 to like 9 because I'd have to be at work around 10 till 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I switched over to, what did I switch over to? I forget what it's called, but I switched over to another major basically, and I ended up having a blood disorder. I actually have known about my rare blood disorder since 2017. About January of 2017 is when I was placed in the hospital for having low blood count, and it almost prevented me from making it to um, graduation that year. And I'm realizing I just said January and I definitely meant um May or something. It's been so long. I think mm, I've kind of pushed the memory in the back of my head because it was just so much that had happened that around that time, and it given me so many problems and issues that I ended up suffering from um short-term memory loss. And a lot of people don't believe me because I haven't had it actually diagnosed to me, but I don't need someone to look. I don't need a professional who doesn't know me, who doesn't know my experiences, who doesn't know anything about me to determine whether or not I can remember something. And that ultimately ended up being another challenge I had in my first few years of college. I ended up turning around and being back in the hospital. while being in college. Ended up having clots in my lungs, and it caused a little bit of necrosis on the right side, right bottom side of my lung, and it was really hard to try and deal with that as well. Um, I had roommates after my sophomore year. I moved to another building, and this time I moved with some girls that looked like me, looked more like me, represented me more, and I never chose my roommates. I always let the school just pick the people for me because I didn't really know anyone moving 2.5 hours away from, home, and I just wanted the school to try and match me best. I figured that would help me out a lot, with making new friends, and hopefully if somebody else had responsibility, it would work out a whole lot better because I'm not gonna even put that on myself, but I am not good at making friends, or at least I wasn't prior to. I just somehow always ended up getting around the wrong people. Not that it would get me in like trouble, like law trouble, but I just was in situations I was never supposed to be in. And I thought that was gonna work out for me, and it didn't even work out for me either. I'm not good with roommates. I don't know what it is. I want to love roommates. I want to have someone to stay with me. I want to live with someone and we can cohabitate and, give each other a tax break. Like, I don't know why people keep tripping in this economy. Like, in today's world, baby, nothing is cheap. I'm out here asking for, hey, can we put it on a payment plan? Even hairdos. At this point, I have to do my own hair. This is why I've been natural for going on 3, 4 years. Um, but yeah, it never worked out for me, and having those roommates, um, some of them were really amazing. I remember being in the hospital. I ended up having to take myself to the hospital. Someone I previously was friends with was on her way to uh, UTMC for a procedure that she had scheduled every week. We got together and were close as friends because we both shared having a rare blood disorder with no cure. And I just told her I'd tag along. I wasn't feeling it. My back was in so much pain. Like bending over was hard. Everything was hard. And it turns out that I had had these clots in my system for a while. They originally were in my legs. Um, and what ultimately ended up happening was I slipped and fell on the ice trying to make it to the school bus that would drive you around campus to get you to your classes so you wouldn't have to walk so far. And ended up moving the clots from my arms to my or sorry, from my legs to my arm. And then I ended up going to the ER. They gave me some meds for the cellulitis, and then they thinned out a little bit. Um, and then they ended up in my lungs because I was taking OCPs, which most people know, but if you don't, it's contraceptives, which are the pills, birth control. I was taking those, and my hematologist told me to stop taking the bottom row, um, because I'd had some issues prior to, with my disorder, which I mean, I guess it wasn't really a part of my disorder. I ended up having a ruptured ovarian cyst, and it caused some internal bleeding, which made it super hard for me too. And that was also another time I took myself to the hospital. I called a Uber up at like 3 a.m. and just sat outside. And while sitting outside, my back gave out. Like all my nerves were just dying on me. And I didn't realize I was actually on my deathbed. My mom was pissed. She, well, you better not ever do that shit again. Why you ain't just call me? I've always been an independent person. I don't know. I don't know. It's just who I've always been. I just always been hyper independent, and that's something I'm also working on this journey. Um, but as to go for having so many disorders and such, I've been in remission now, gracefully for about um 4 years, I would say. I haven't really had any issues. I haven't had to go to any appointments with my hematologist as often. I think I go every 3 months now. Uh, but I could ramble on and on about my disorder and who I am and how I moved to Toledo and such. But there's plenty more time to come. That's just a little bit about me. coming forth in these podcasts. You may hear a little roof and raff. That's Bailey. He's in the background. He's a cool dude. He may howl at you every once in a while. I'll bring him in frame some other time. Um, yeah, I'm really excited. I am just taking some time to look around, and I'm excited to see what I'm gonna do. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I think it's important for me to come out and say that I have no idea what I'm doing. I actually um, am in a point in my life where I am having to reconsider um, jobs, and I'm having to reconsider jobs and figure out what it is I'm gonna do. I This kind of hit me abrupt. I wasn't ready to leave um, my position, but everything's been said and done. I have taken these few days to just relax, and I figure, you know what, why not? That's something I haven't done. It's important to relax, and I feel that since I've started working at the prime age of 15 and a half, I never stopped working except for all the times where I was pretty much bedridden. Um, so yeah, for the first time, I'm taking, and it just so coincidentally happens to be um, my spring break during my very last semester of college, at least for now. And it's strange. Like, I really just get to sit at home. And I don't know how many people can just sit at home and like really enjoy their space, without the obligation of I have to get up and I have somewhere to be in the morning. So this is nice, and I just on a whim purchased this podcast equipment and figured this is something I want to do. I've done a project for a menu development class that we take in culinary arts for the program. It's a class that's required, and I made a pretend menu, and at the back of the menu, I said something along the lines of, "Be sure to check out our podcast, Fried Eggs." And you know what? This is just me bringing it into fruition. Um, I want to keep up with fried eggs, and I want to keep up with the 5-9. Um, I want to educate people on how to eat healthier, how to choose to eat the same of your favorite items and meals, but switching out some of the ingredients that can be hidden so that you can expect to live and have higher vitality through the rest of your days for as long as you shall be here. I just want for anyone and everyone, to be happy, be healthy, um physically, emotionally, and definitely mentally. I am so excited to start this and to keep going, and I want people on here on this podcast. I'm looking actually to have someone on to talk about mental health. I think that is so important, and I think I want to talk about it too in the black community, and how it's kind of difficult in the black community that it's not necessarily talked about, and it's a cycle you have to break um if you did not grow up with parents who even experienced parents who talked about mental health either. So join me on this ride. Thank you so much for listening to this first little ramble off 20-25 minutes. I appreciate you guys so much. And as I say, when I'm finished with any of my TikToks, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, the 5-9 underscore, or mood food on TikTok. Like I said, how I always say, what we simply call mood food. Let go, we good. Bye.